Welcome. Hope they are a wonderful summer and welcome to the fall first kickoff meeting of Park and Recreation. We do have a very busy agenda and we don't yet have a quorum yet, so we may have to jump around a little bit and do some of the reports. I'm expecting one or two more people to show before we can actually make a vote. So with that said, let's start out with a roll call. Ronald, we'll start with you first.
Sure. Ronna Siegel,
Jake Granito.
Call myself.
George Bennington.
Hank Green.
Keith Ritchie. Thank you all. And first order of business will be to approve the minutes from the July 13th meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Thank you, Keith. Second, Jacob. So carried. Okay. Is Monica here? Okay, we'll move on. With the Waveney Conservancy, Steve, I know you guys have a proposal tonight. If you don't mind, I'm going to move to pathway improvements because that doesn't need a formal vote. Okay, is that okay? So why don't we move on to the pathway improvements for Mead Park, which we're excited about. Who would like? All right, there he is, and there's Tiger. Tiger, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Can I share my screen? Is that possible?
You should be able to. You're a co-host.
I am? Okay. Fantastic. Everybody see that okay?
Sure.
All right. So I figured I haven't been to the commission in a while. I apologize. So I thought I'd expand it a little bit and talk about a couple of projects that we got going on, one of which is the pathway improvements. If you don't mind. So I'll buzz through these as fast as possible. We've got about 24 projects under play. I'll talk about any single one. I'll send these slides around to everyone so that they can have them. And if they have a question, I can certainly come back and answer a question on any one of them. But the starred ones are the ones that I think we should kind of highlight, only because I'm kind of excited about some of them. So the first is, as you probably noted, we've been working on the stone walls on along Lapham Road. I was very happy that we were able to get the ones along the pool done before the dedication for Steve. And we have one last little piece in the middle, right in front of the paddle courts, that we're going to bring to the Board of Selectmen next week, and then finish that section there. And I think that that'll be a really, really nice finishing to the park, so to speak. And then at that point in time, we might look to do some additional walls in and around Waveney and then elsewhere in town. The next is, we did a little bit of work at the paddle court parking lot. The paddle courts are to your right on the screen. We needed to add some disabled or accessible parking to the lot itself. We didn't have any accessible parking. And so we did a little bit of an expansion just to buy about a couple, 3 feet here and there, especially in this upper right-hand corner of the lot. And then we're proposing to stripe the rest of it so that it's actually better used. And then I can actually stripe the accessible spaces and make sure that people know exactly where they are and how to access them. So we plan to do that. I have a proposal so far from Stafey Marcus to do that. I just need the first selectman to sign it, but I wanted the commission to be aware of what we were doing prior to doing any of that work, prior to doing any of the striping, I should say. And then the next is, we just finished the tea house, put on a brand new roof, all new tile, and then stained and painted, depending upon what it is. And then one of their craftsmen was able to actually go in and recreate all the small special molding, went back to his shop and created that. So inside the structure itself is absolutely beautiful. There's a close-up of the front entrance of it. But I think it came out absolutely beautiful. I welcome anybody to go. And then we pressure washed one of the walls, and you can see at the end there, as you head back towards the fountain, you can see the difference between the walls, the difference in the colors, and how much it pops. So we'll be looking to pressure wash some more of the walls as we go. You can obviously see that one of them is out of plumb. That'll probably be our next phase project. Once we get done with the service area project, we'll look to try to straighten up some of these walls that are starting to lean a little bit too far. Another project that we did was we expanded the patio at Mead Park. You can see right along the flagpole area. That used to be a planted area, and then during COVID we put in crushed stone, and then the crushed stone became problematic for the parks crews because kids were throwing the crushed stone all over the place. So we went and asked the selectmen if we could expand the patio area with bluestone, and you can see in the upper left-hand corner the usage of it, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. We'll look to do some additional expansion of the area along the tree line, possibly putting in a decked area. I asked for a proposal from a landscape architect to give us a proposal for that, and they'll bring that back to the commission once we have a design for the commission's approval at that point. The next one, this is the one that was on the agenda, was a proposed flexi-pave walk along the outside perimeter of the park. The upper right-hand corner is where you come in off of Park Street. Our pump station is in this area here with a little paved area. We would propose to put in a flexi-pave walk across over the bridge and around over the next bridge and then through the park and back out again. We can't necessarily circumambulate the entire park or pond. This area along the wall is actually, part of it is still, there's a water line here along the wall, so I don't think we can get the walkway to come in through here, so it'd be more of a horseshoe walkway. The proposal itself was to use ARPA funds, approximately $300,000 of it. The Board of Selectmen approved the project, and then it was tabled at the Board of Finance level. We had some concerns from the residents from the condo complexes here up above about the proximity of the walkway to their property line, and then what it would be and what it would look like and its usage and things of that nature. So it was tabled at the Board of Finance level. So the funding didn't go any further. However, we do have funding and we have a contract in place to survey the entire park itself, and then do a boundary survey along with it. So not only a topographical survey, but a boundary survey. And at that point in time, that'll help us find out exactly where our property line is. I'll have that staked. We can meet with the neighbors, and then we might be able to go forward with a preliminary design to take a look at exactly what a layout would look like. Obviously need to speak to the neighbors more at that level, gain some of their understanding of the project, and then come to the commission once we have a more formalized plan to go forward. So that right now we're at a stasis point on it. We'll go forward. We'll get the survey, see what the survey results tell us as far as how much we're looking at in that area, and then how much actual parkland we own, because some of it is actually owned by the complexes to the side. You can almost see the property line as it skews in and out. You can see the property line comes in, comes out, comes in, comes out. So you can see that there's a area there where they encroach a little bit further into the park than I think everyone is aware. But we'll get the survey, find out exactly how much area we have to work with, meet with the neighbors, possibly get a preliminary design or a preliminary layout for the work, and then come back to the commission, meet with the neighbors and come back to the commission for that. And then one of the last things that we're looking at doing is, this is the patio area or a stoned area in front of the new pickleball courts. And this is a view of the parking area for pickle and the upper tennis courts by the tennis shed. We're looking at putting in a brand new parking lot and a bluestone patio for the pickleball courts. So if you look at the picture, the anything that's in brown in front of the pickleball courts would be bluestone. Anything in green would be a planted area. And then redoing the parking area itself, and it would utilize, we'd get about 11 spaces and one accessible space. We need an accessible space in this area to provide access to and from the pickleball courts. And in so doing, I think it's best for us to just actually redo the entire lot. It's not in very good shape. It's not very well delineated. We have gravel in certain areas, pavement in others. And I think it would be a good idea to actually delineate the actual parking area and create it, and then probably at that point gain a little bit more parking, since it won't be as haphazard. Um, I don't know if you have any questions on any of those or anything that else that we have going on in the park, but I'm happy to talk through anything you have.
Great.
The parking for the that you just mentioned by the pickleball, does that take the same footprint as the existing parking?
It's it's a great question, Carl. It's a little bit larger in quantifying out. You can see right here, there's a little bit of green space that will be lost, but there's a little bit of space here that's gained. And in here, this is all gravel at present. So it's not a grassed area at any, and it's not necessarily a usable area. There was a drainage ditch that ran along the north side of the courts themselves through here. We were able to redefine that with the work on the pickle, and then actually pipe it in across so we can actually get an accessible walkway up into pickle itself, up until up to the courts. So there's a small amount of impervious area being created, but we are trying to mitigate that in other ways. Throughout the park, we're trying to see whether or not we can actually reduce some of our footprint. Actually, throughout town, we're trying to do that as far as disconnecting our impervious areas. It's one of our mandates from the DEP.
Tiger, quick question. The pathway from, let's say the baseball fields to Bristow Park. I know Chris has been after us for a while.
Question. Yeah, so that's a great question. That was on my list. So the pathway from the Mead Park Lodge parking lot, I'd say behind the baseball fields. I'm waiting for a proposal from a landscape architect to look to redo that area, not just the walkway itself or the access way leading down for John's crews and Todd's crews to get down there, but then to redo the slope. The slope right now is failing. The filter fabric is there, the stones come off of it. So the project encompasses a retaining wall of sorts and a new walkway. I've already spoken to the manufacturers of FlexiPave, and they've been holding their price for us, their price that they had given us back when we did Irwin Park. And since we were one of the first installations in the Northeast, they feel compelled to continue to provide us that great pricing.
Okay.
So I've already spoken to them about that. I'm just waiting for the proposal from the landscape architect. We'll go through the design process, and I would imagine it'll be something in the spring that we would take care of. I know that John had a contractor who could go out and kind of regrade the area a little bit to try to get some of the big stones out and try to make it a little bit more palatable on for foot traffic and for people with a stroller or what have you. But we'll look at this as being an early spring project.
Okay. Thank you. The funding been approved for all of this? I know you want
The funding has been approved for. Yeah, I have money for each one of the projects that we spoke of in either in a parking lot line item, sidewalk line item, things of that nature. So I have funding available.
Thank you. Are there any questions from Jake?
Tiger, on the parking lot right there.
Yeah.
If you pave it with the slope down to the main driveway, do you need to add catch basins at the bottom or up top?
We are adding one. It's a very good question. We're trying to. Maria's been looking at the slope and trying to. Then that's why we put this little bow in it to try. And then at the bottom, you can't see it. It's kind of out of the picture, but we in essence put a traffic island on the bottom to try to increase the run so that we'll decrease the slope. Right, we'll decrease the rise in the end, so it'll be a little bit easier on a car trying to make it up that embankment. There are catch basins across the street, and she'll look at the overall drainage at the time, but she didn't mention anything that was necessary there at present. But we will take a look at that. It's all once we get the survey in and we have the all the topography, then we'll be able to calculate that slope a little bit better and the rise a little bit better at that point in time. But she did try to put a little bit of extra length of driveway in it to try to lessen that or the severity of that slope.
Okay.
Good.
And would you guys do asphalt curbs or concrete curbs?
I don't think so. The main reason is that gets really heavily used. And while we're going to quantify that area of parking, I imagine that we're going to get a lot of parking still on the grass. I've been at the park a number of times in the, especially in the weekend or during heavier times when you have a couple of baseball games going on and people are playing tennis. And if I start curbing it, I'm afraid that people are going to hop the curb and come on. I wouldn't use concrete. I use either asphalt curbing, bituminous curbing, or granite. We don't use concrete.
Okay.
But
I was
we
just
could
thinking about,
certainly look at that.
yeah, I was just thinking about washout if a heavy rain or something like that. That's all.
No, it's an excellent question. It's just like I said, we have to balance those two, right? Whereby people are gonna hop the curb because they can't find a parking space. And then do we want them to hop the curb? And if we are gonna allow them to hop the curb, what kind of curb do we want them to hop at that point? So those are questions we'll have to answer, and I'll reach out to John and Todd and see what their feelings are, as well as Maria's, as far as maintenance and what have you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tiger, the boundary discussions with the neighbors, about how many neighbors are we talking about? And can any of the neighbors veto that part of the project?
From what I understand, there are two sets of 13 condos on the embankment. So there's one set in here, Park Mead and Park View, and they're both 13 units. We've spoken to the president and the treasurer of the first units here, of the condos that are here in this area. And they have said that to a person at their complex, they're opposed to it, but they also read about it in the paper. They haven't seen a design. They're worried about encroachment on their property. And I said that there wouldn't be any encroachment on their property. When I met with them, I said we had three options really in this, what's considered a choke point right here, where the can't get the mouse to work, sorry, in this area right here, where their property comes out a little bit further. So we had several options. One was to relocate the tree in that area, the Gold Star Walk tree, to give us a little bit more room in that area. Second option was to ask for an easement that they don't have to grant. Or the third is to actually create a wall and then make the walk go towards the water. And that might actually be a nice feature, as far as having the walk itself kind of border the pond itself. Might be a nice feature to have a wall coming out of the pond, but that would be the wetland board commission would have to approve that type of improvement. Obviously, any of the work that we would do here would have to go to wetlands for approval, and specifically that type of item where we would be encroaching on the embankment, so to speak. They would have to approve that, but it might be a nice feature. So there's three options. Again, I don't really know yet until I get the survey back to find out exactly how much usable land we have prior to the pond edge. But I can't say that they can't veto it, but we always want our neighbors to be happy, right? We try very, very hard to appease all of the neighbors and all the residents during any project. So we would work with them quite extensively if this was to go forward, to try to make sure that their concerns were noted and abated where we could.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiger. Any further questions from members of the commission? Comments? Tiger, thank you very much for these update on these great improvements. I know that we've been constantly getting a lot of questions about this, and it's great to see that a plan and we're moving forward on it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda will be the Waveney Conservancy, Phoebe and Steve. Yeah, Steve's online and Gene's here too, so we're good. We have 7, 8, in fact. So we can vote. Welcome. Everybody can state their names for the record. That'd be great.
Stephen Beschenstein,
Catherine Herman.
Maggie Liang.
Phoebe Knowles.
Great. Thank you and welcome. So the floor is yours.
All right, great. Well, good evening and thank you for having us tonight.
The microphone close.
Thank you. Good evening and thank you for having us tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephen Beshensdown and I'm the chair of the Waveney Park Conservancy. And I'm joined here tonight with Phoebe Knowles down on the end, who is our executive director, Maggie Liang and Catherine Herman, who are landscape designers who we've worked with on a number of projects within the park. And as some of you are aware, in 2021, the Waveney Park Conservancy introduced a new master plan that incorporated a series of ideas that we'd like to accomplish over the course of the next 5 years in the park. And this was a plan that was developed with input from landscape design professionals, numerous town officials, park users, and other constituents in the park. And as part of that plan, several projects came to light, which involved the entrances and the entranceway leading from South Avenue up to the Mansion House. And we sort of identified as priorities that we would like to redevelop both of the entrances and landscape the median between the entranceway drive and the running path that leads up to the mansion. Earlier this year, we engaged Catherine and her team to develop detailed plans for executing these projects. And this was an iterative process where members of our board met regularly with them, and also town officials were involved, mostly Tiger and John. Catherine's plans have now been unanimously approved by the Waveney Park Conservancy Board. And tonight we'd like to present them to Parks and Rec and seek your approval. And we think that these projects will further enhance the incredible beauty of Waveney Park. And so at this stage, I'd like to turn over the discussion to Catherine and Maggie and have them describe their plans. And I'm not certain that we have them in a format that can be put up on the screen. I think there were some technological issues, so they may have to hand out some pieces to you. But
Thank you. Sure.
without further ado, I will hand it over to them.
I'm going to borrow that from you. Thank you. Thank you. I'll let you guys get that passed out so you can see the plans.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a very long roadway between South Avenue and Lapland. So what you have before you is the sort of a construction document set, if you will, the landscape plan for the improvements to the two entrances as well as the roadway. What's I think a great thing to look at is on the very first page, on the cover page, we have a key plan. So you can see the two entrances and everything is sort of labeled, starting at South Avenue, it's L 1.01. And if we could start there, it's good to always refer back to this cover page. I should just say L 1.0 shows the plant material that we're proposing for this project. This has been very carefully thought through as far as using mostly native plant material and things that will do well and enhance the understory because quite a lot of the spaces are quite shaded. We're looking to use things that are, sort of going to thrive and expand. So we mostly have a palette of rhododendron. These would be, again, mostly native rhododendron, as well as ferns and some just one viburnum. We've been thinking about color, what it looks like in the spring, in the fall, what's deer resistant, because obviously it's just out in the open. So we certainly don't want to put in a buffet for deer. But things that are going to do well in those shaded conditions. So, I can just maybe quickly run through the list of plant material. It would be the rhododendron vaccii, rhododendron mucronulatum, Cornell pink, rhododendron vermiculoides, rhododendron maximum, which is an evergreen, the rhododendron prunifolium, rhododendron schlippenbachii, rhododendron viscosum, viburnum dentatum blue muffin, which is called that because it does berry and it has beautiful blue berries. And then for ferns, we have the Dryopteris, won't even try the second half of that one, but it's the autumn fern, which has such great color. And then the hay-scented fern, which is a really great fern because it is a colonizing fern and it will spread. So the idea is that we're trying to use plant material that is going to continue to fill out and fill in the spaces. So that's on the very first page, L.10 or L.10. And then what we've had to do, because it is, it's a very long driveway, we have L.101, which is the entrance. So just looking to really clean up what's there, remove some of the plant material that's existing, but come in with something that's, more legible and use larger quantities of it. So it's very beautiful. I think it's important to, especially coming off of South Avenue, that seems to be the entrance that a lot of people use, to do something that's very, very pretty. And then as you move through each of these pages, actually L.1.02 would be the Lapham Road entrance. So again, that's a little bit sunnier. So we've just changed some of the plant material on that entrance. We're not touching any of the existing walls that are there, but looking to use plant material that backs those existing walls. And then all the other pages, as you flip through them, would show where all these rhododendron and ferns would be placed throughout. Move over, say it, but I guess I would ask if there are any questions. Anybody's
Just one thing about the deer,
Yes.
because we're at entrances and we have cars that come in and out, and some cars are flying in and out. Is there any real concern? Are these deer resistant, or are the deer going to be attracted to them, or do you have any concerns about that?
No, these would be deer resistant.
Deer
plant
resistant,
material.
okay.
Of course, I should say it goes without saying,
Excuse
the
me.
deer, will eat anything if it's, if there's kind of nothing else to eat. Certainly, there's nothing that is deer proof, but these were deer resistant.
And if I may, if I can add to that, our expectation is that we are probably also going to pay for some additional deer spraying
Okay, yeah.
on these things. So hopefully we're going to make
Yeah,
them even
I find
less
that-
attractive to our four-legged friends.
I find that works on my bushes pretty
Yes.
well.
Yeah, it works quite well.
You're not us,
Works quite well.
but just because they are near the entrances, and particularly with students coming out of the high school. So,
I have a question. I think of laurels as being the kind of an indigenous rhododendron version. I didn't hear you mention that.
I did not, though it is the state flower. You're talking about the mountain laurel? or
Yeah.
Palmia. Yeah, it's state flower. It's actually quite difficult to purchase in, sort of larger quantities. And that has a lot to do with the way that that it grows. It's actually a very difficult plant to get in the nursery trade, sadly.
Is there any tree removal under this plan?
No.
question.
And no fencing required, like in Jenny and Meadow, that temp deer resistant fencing, no netting or anything like that.
No.
I just see that some of these bushes get to 4 to 5 feet high, and when you're exiting the park going to South Ave, I just want to make sure there's no line of sight issues or anything like that.
Yeah, everything, all the plant material, especially around, as I mentioned, around the stone walls it would be behind the stone wall.
Okay.
So anything
Okay.
that's in front of the stone wall would be the ferns. So
Right.
there should be no line of sight issues with that.
Okay.
And back to the trees, would you consider any tree removal? Because I know that if you go to L.103, I know right around that bend, there's a couple of trees that are right on the roadway / basically right on the corner. So I'm just curious. I know it's not on here or anything. I'm
Yeah,
just
I don't-
curious if,
We were not thinking about tree removals, trying to work with what was there to try to be the least invasive as possible
Mhm.
to it. I mean, I think that could be something that could be discussed.
Okay.
You know, I know that the roadway, you know, through the park is very narrow, and I'm sure that's, you know, to try to control the traffic and the speed.
Mhm. Yeah, I just wasn't sure, that's all.
Yeah, by leaving the trees there, it actually helps with the traffic calming.
Yeah.
The traffic slowing everybody down.
Sure does.
The long-term plan for maintaining the rhododendrons, I mean, some in our backyard get very big. How would they be maintained and then kept in shape and cut to size? This is a question more for the conservancy again.
Well, our expectation is that we are going to have to have a maintenance plan, and that will be something that goes into the budget. And this would include both sort of around the entranceways, things like weeding, edging, periodic mulching, as well as the spraying. And then in the entranceway, similar things, but I think that we would anticipate that in some cases we might have to include pruning within that. But we expect that there will need to be an annual outlay for maintenance in this area. There may be some maintenance tasks that the town can take on, and they've indicated a willingness to look at that. And we, as you well know, frequently partner with the town. But it may also make sense for us to think about, as we have in some other areas of the park, you know, getting some special contractors to assist with the annual maintenance. But in all of these projects, we're well aware of the fact that we have to be thinking about the ongoing maintenance, not only how you accomplish it, but also what's the cost involved, and make sure that that's figured into the equation.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments? Can we have a motion to approve this plan? Thank you, Rana. Second is Jake. Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? Great job. And we thank you for the terrific work that you guys are doing, enhancing this wonderful asset of New Canaan.
Do you want these back?
No, you can keep them.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next way on the agenda is Planet New Canaan. Proposal for the use the Benko Pool parking lot for January for the annual recycling program. Take care. Is Heather? You want to fill in?
Yeah, she's gonna be on Zoom, so I'll, I don't have all my information with me, unfortunately. Hopefully.
Heather or your Ulrika?
Okay. She was just here. She left. She was gonna get on Zoom. So if she jumps on, yeah, so we're, once again, for the third year in a row, we'd like to do the Christmas tree recycling at the Steve Benko parking lot. Once again, we'd be working with slobs, having Planet New Canaan volunteers, as well as this year, we'd be looking to possibly maybe hire a college student to help. In years past, what we are is we are there the entire time. The drop-offs are being done because reefs are not allowed, only things that can be mulched. And we were looking at the dates of December, sorry, I don't have the email, December 29th, which I believe is a Saturday, and going for 2 weeks after that.
2 weeks after that? Okay.
Yeah, for a 2 week period.
That would be, just so that we have it correct for the minutes.
Sunday is the 25th, so it's the Sunday after that.
No, it's,
Be
I
the 14th.
think New Year's is the,
New Year's is
Mon-
Sunday.
Sunday, Monday.
is Sunday. So we would start on the Saturday before New Year's,
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve. Yeah, sorry.
And 2 weeks after that, so it'd be the 14th.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we just put it to the 15th to give ourselves
Yeah,
a little wiggle room? Okay, so December 29th to January 15th.
Mhm.
2023. Okay.
that's it. Any questions?
Any questions from the commission, comments?
I'll make a comment. I thought it was great.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, feedback has been enormously positive.
One
Yeah.
suggestion, would you want to do this for maybe a period of 3 or 5 years, so they don't have to come back every year, saying it from the weekend after Christmas till mid-January? Make approval. It works great for us. It's not a problem as far as.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
do that.
So why don't we put December 2022 through 2025?
Yep.
Great.
Would that be okay? Okay. A motion to approve. Thanks, Jake. Second,
Oh,
Keith?
second.
All those in favor?
Great. Thank you.
Opposed? Okay, thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
Great deal.
Yeah, that was easy. Okay, Ms. Hughes. Julia Hughes. This was a last minute thing that we got contacted about. The Grace Community Church would like the use of Kiwanis Park. I don't know really any more details other than that. Obviously, at this point, if no one's here to represent them, we can't approve anything. So, John, do you have any background on this?
Just brief background, they actually approached us to use Waveney Circle. We turned them down because we have 3 Halloween events at Waveney in the month of October already.
Right.
We didn't want it to dilute our event by any means. So that's when they were looking for other places. And then I saw the same email you saw. Other than that, I don't have it.
Okay, so unless they circle back to us, we'll just basically table this indefinitely. Okay. All right. Ron and Hank, we look forward to your update on Benko Pool and the Kiwanis Park.
Hank, you want me to go first?
No, no, you go first.
Thank you. Update on Benko Pool. I mean, first, very happy to call it Steve Benko Pool.
Mhm.
Exciting. It was an incredible summer. Everyone knows it was really hot. We opened Memorial Weekend. We closed at the end of the day on Labor Day. We were up basically 4% with activity. I can go through those stats with you. But some really great things to note for the team was not one full day was the pool closed. And usually historically, there's something or some reason. So pretty incredible. We also instituted a food truck on Taco Tuesday, each Tuesday through that time period in order to alleviate the current operator of the food source having staffing issues. So that worked really well. Great feedback and heard good reviews. And then in addition, they instituted this year, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and holidays, a full-time bathroom cleaner on those days. So 0 complaints on locker rooms or cleanliness. So they've seemed to really get ahead of any issues in the past. So family-wise and passes that were sold, I'll go 21 versus 22. So in 21, there was 906 family passes. This year, there was 920. Individual passes in 21, there was 167. This year, 184. Nanny passes 97 in 21 versus 115. And last but not least, senior citizens were 181 versus 192. So in each case, they were all up from previous years, we're happy to report. And overall, there were about almost 4,700 passes sold. So I'll give you exact numbers. There was 4,483 in 21 versus 4,669. So basically 186 more passes, 4% up on activity. And lastly, I would just add for some future capital ideas. I know, being involved for a bit here, that there is one pump there and an old pump. And when those go down in the summer, it's very hard to find a backup because other places are using those backups. So I would just suggest in future capital, maybe buying a new pump and keeping the old one. So you have the refurbished there in case you need it. I think, John, I asked you, it's under 10 grand, correct?
Not exactly
Approximately.
sure, but I'd say it'd be approximately.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, I know that the pool deck has been mentioned a few times to replace it eventually. Keep that out on our radar screen. And in the meantime, they can continue to replace panels as they need to. It's not something that has to be done tomorrow. And it's just another source that people continue to use. And on a side note, again, same as last year, there were exactly 100 passes for out of towners. So that was the one thing that's in that mix, but just wanted to mention that.
Rona, what's the pool deck made out of?
Concrete.
Concrete,
It's
stamp,
concrete panels.
stamp concrete.
20 years old of concrete.
Okay.
It's doing very well, especially since it doesn't have any salt put on it, but it's showing 20 years of age.
What's the bath cleaning schedule for a regular weekday?
Regular weekdays, we actually added a second cleaning or another cleaning to
Okay.
that. So we added cleaning during the regular weekdays too.
Okay. Is that every day? Is
That's
this
every day, the Friday, Saturday, Sunday and holidays,
Yep,
there's an attendant on all day.
yep, that's
But
full-time
every
cleaning.
day compared to last year, we've added an extra cleaning midday.
Midday, okay. Thank you.
Great.
Well,
Ron,
while I'm talking, I would like to say thanks to Steve Dayton. He did
Yeah.
a tremendous job, him and his
Yeah.
staff, keeping the pool in good shape. We always have room for minor improvement. We fell a little bit behind on the gun on vacuuming the pool. We've got some stuff in the works. We did better than we have, but we want to do even better than that. So, but he's done,
Yeah.
him and his staff did a great job.
Okay. It's a big operation for a short amount of time, and Steve, thank you very much. So appreciate, Ronna, thank you. Great update. Hank, go on us.
Thank you. Thanks, George. There's a 3-page handout here. If you have it, the first page is the library programs. And if you look at this page, the library programs, I mean, I think you'll agree that in the parlance of the 1960s, the library did the job they did was just mind-blowing. I mean, just take a look at this and at all the programs they had, all the people who were there. I'll just talk about one of their activities. When Steve Dayton some months ago at one of these meetings suggested we have the cardboard boat regatta. I have to say, in my own mind, mixing metaphors, I thought this is never going to fly. And it was just a great event. Only one boat sank immediately, and it was terrific.
No fatalities.
No fatalities. And the library feels that this is going to be an even bigger event next year. There are high school kids who are interested. So I think it's going to be very good. I'd like to look at the adult events just for a second. There are almost 150 adults who participated in the adult events. And a lot of these people, according to what the library told me, this is their first time at Waveney, and it introduced them to Waveney. Kiwanis, I'm sorry. 74 years old, John. Give me a break. Okay. But it introduced them to Kiwanis. I would like to draw our attention to some of the quotes here from the library. It says, Kiwanis is a wonderful park to run our programs that our patrons would have loved and potentially stayed longer if the food stand was open. And we're going to talk about that we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, because that is an issue. Okay. Also, part one quote, many of our patrons commented on the fact they hadn't known this park existed before. So these programs were just great. And the one thing for John and Steve, the library hoped they want to do this stuff again next year. They would like to have some kind of place where they could store all their stuff, because they have to keep bringing it in every day. And I was wondering maybe if between now and next summer, we might be able to work on this and find a solution for this for them. But for the people who did the programs, Marie Aspinwall and Julia Ray Hodenfield, two big thumbs up. Great job by the library. Next page, the YMCA Camp Waikai. The folks at the Y, the headline is the folks at the Y were really happy campers. They had a great season. 170 campers, which is their maximum for each session. They had their 4 sessions. It was their 63rd year of operation. You see a quote below there. "We love using Kiwanis. It's a great space." And I just want to draw your attention to the 3rd bullet, please. It says the Park and Rec staff was super attentive, and the folks from the library said the same thing. So John and Steve and yeah, and everybody else on your team, thank you. I mean, you know, it seems like you made a lot of friends this summer. I appreciate it. Okay, beach activity. There were 505 beach passes sold, which is more than in recent years. That was up 14% from 2021. Just seems a great year. The New Canaan Daycare brought 25 campers each Tuesday and Wednesday. And the one disappointment, which we may as well talk now, was about the lack of a food truck and food service. And we all agree it needs it. So there's no dispute there. One vendor was lined up for for this summer for 2022, but you have to have an LLC to be a vendor in New Canaan's parks, and this vendor did not get his LLC in time, and that was because the state had a huge issuance backlog for LLCs, and so but we're hoping that next year that will be solved. In fact, Steve Dayton is, I believe, currently in talks with a prospective food vendor for the 2023 season. And again, it was a great summer for Kiwanis Park.
Absolutely. Steve, any updates on this potential food vendor? I know it's early days, but what are your thoughts on that?
Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a lot of logistics, and it's similar to the food trucks we had lined up. We actually had 3 at different times that were all interested until push came to shove,
Mm-hmm.
and then they didn't want to come. So
Okay.
the hard part is they look at the traffic. We're looking at it and saying there's a lot of people there and it's very nice. They look at it and they don't think it's enough to be viable.
Right. Yeah, just as a potential suggestion is if we eliminate, just have maybe soda, ice cream, candy, and eliminate the hamburgers, hot dogs, which gets obviously a little bit more complex. Potentially, is that an option? I just throw, yeah, throw that out there, you know. So. As potentially compromised. Thanks, Hank. That's an excellent report. Is there any questions for either Rona or Hank? Okay. We really appreciate the time and the effort you guys put into those reports. That's great. They're very successful summer at both facilities. So we will move on to updates on the Waveney House and the Lapham Community Center with Keith Ritchie and Aggie. How are you? Good to see you again. So Keith.
Okay, I should say we prepared some PowerPoint slides. You each have them, and unfortunately in black and white, because that's a shame, because you don't see the beauty of Waveney House, New Canaan's crown jewel. You all know about Waveney House. The focus of this presentation really has been the usage project, which you recall back in March. We heard about phase 1 of the case study brands review, and they proposed a number of things. And one of the things they proposed was increasing the rate for the use of Waveney House for things like weddings. Those rates were increased. There's been no discernible impact on bookings, and this is a list of the bookings. It is very impressive. Could be better, obviously, but it's really getting a lot of use. Recently, the town hired the case study brands to execute phase 2 of their recommendations, which includes a build of a new dedicated website. There already is it's already on the town website, but this is a new dedicated website, new brand identity and website contact management. They're talking about organizing a photo shoot of Waveney House using the New Canaan High School photo class. And they're right now in the process of filling the wedding coordinator position that was talked about, where you'd have one point of contact if you were organizing a wedding that you were going to have at Waveney House. Below is listed the project timeline. And as you see, next week already, they will be presenting the initial brand identity with the idea of the logo and the initial website content. Then in the end of September, finalization of the website content, proposed site map, early October, feedback and review of content, mid-October, the site that's meant to be site design presented, and mid-November, projected website launch. And thanks to Tucker Murphy for all that information. Flipping to page 3, unfortunately, we printed this out before I got the input from Tiger Man, and so the comment here is actually pretty much wrong. So Tiger already has a good bid to make the bathrooms on the second floor ADA compliant. And really decisions have been made regarding the design of the elevator. The reason nothing's happening at the moment is the funding has not been approved. And what with the work on the police station and on a couple of other things in town, it's kind of being deferred a bit. But he doesn't see that as a problem. He just sees that it kind of has to wait its turn. So moving on, unless there's any questions, moving on to Lapham Community Center. And thousands of New Canaanites come to Lapham every day and and throughout the year for classes, events, and things like that. I know I'm one of them. Going to slide 5, there's a lot of these facts which you're very much aware of. It's for New Canaan residents 21 and older. It's open basically the daylight hours, 8:30 to 4:30, but sometimes they have special events and they come in and they come back from work and they keep it open later. They had a program to allow Wednesday night dinners before the Wednesday night performances in Waveney this past summer. That was a big success. They have amazing number of programs. You all got amongst your various handouts today, these. If you go through, it is truly impressive, the number of things that the staff at Lapham organize and keep going. Every time I'm there, there's 3 or 4 things going on in every single room simultaneously. This is a schedule showing just the month of September. And by the way, both of these things you get on the on their list, and then you get these emails with all this information. So they do a great job of making that information accessible. So 75, really more than 75 offerings. I won't go through, I think, all these points, but some of these are just fantastic. 400 appointments for Medicare Part D organized each year. And I know the men in the men's club take full advantage of that. And many of them told me they've saved tons of money by going to the counselors available at Lapham. They coordinate with almost every group in town to use their facility, including their kitchen. And I'm moving on now to slide 6. They also disseminate the information from the various town bodies, health, human services, public works. So they get that word out to their target audience. They have over 20 teachers and over 15 volunteers helping to run classes, answering phones, and providing other assistance. And their offerings are either low cost, which basically is enough to reimburse any teachers or the outsiders that are, that have come in to teach a class or run a program and maybe make a little bit more. Or they're free to the residents of New Canaan. One of the great things about Lapham is if you go there a lot, you get to know the Lapham staff, they get to know you, and then you can ask them a lot of questions, and there's an interaction there, which is kind of unique between residents of New Canaan and people working for the town of New Canaan. It's informal, it's informative and friendly, and so people feel able to ask questions that maybe they wouldn't otherwise feel comfortable asking. And everyone who goes there will tell you they love the staff. There's a saying there, come for a class, stay for community. The next, well, on slide 7, Aggie and her staff have tried to keep a summary of attendance for all the years, but this is just showing from 2018 to 2022. And what it really shows is the drop off caused by COVID. Obviously, the people that mostly use Lapham were the target group most susceptible to COVID. And so they really had to go to a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of electronic, and that hurt the number of people showing up, but they still kept an enormous number of classes and things going via Zoom. And now you see the numbers in our post-vaccine world, the numbers are picking up again. And Aggie, I'll let you speak to this. You kind of have the feeling that we'll get back to where we were.
Back to normal.
Mhm.
150 people a day. Today, the day before, we had big events, twice a day, during the day. So people, when our rooms is full, and every room had people in it. It felt like we're getting it, we kind of kick-started again because it just came back and now they're feeling very comfortable. I think we've almost got all of them coming back that are in town still. So, and I think our population changed. So we're battling that as well, but we're getting there. It felt almost normal this week, like back to normal to the days before COVID.
Yeah, I think you're referring to, we think the demographic in town is getting slightly younger.
Yeah.
And so that's affecting the number of people likely to participate in Lapham. Anyhow, I wanted to say on the last slide, just thanks to you, Aggie, and your fellow workers there, Kathy and Stephanie, you do a great job, and so do all the volunteers. Are there any questions?
Questions?
Keith, does Lapham draw from outside New Canaan, or is it solely New Canaan patrons?
No, you can be a non-resident, but it's intended for New Canaan residents. Is that what, am I answering your question?
No,
Maybe Aggie
the
should
question
answer
is really the people from outside the community come there, you know.
For free programs, yes, for the classes that are paid for New Canaan residents only. So, because we're a staff of 2, we can't open the floodgates to having people from, like, if we open to Stanford or Norwalk or Darien residents, it'd just be too many people to fit the envelope. But for any of the free programs, like we free movies Friday, anybody's welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Keith, and thanks, Amy, for the fantastic work that you guys are doing. I really appreciate it. It's a great asset the town has. So if there's no other questions, we'll move on to John Howe's reports.
Good evening. Okay, as probably most of you know, after 42 years, Bill Cap retired this summer since our last meeting. With that said, we're in the process of interviewing, and hopefully by mid-October, we'll have assistant recreation director on staff and in place. So also the town is looking at hiring somebody part-time to be more of a wedding coordinator type position. So that's in the works right now. We'll have more of that probably in another month. A lot of things going on recreation wise. Rotary Club's lobster is going to be served out of the pool the end of September, last day of September and the first day of October. Other special events, there's going to be a pickleball tournament at Mead, October 1st with a rain date of the 2nd. Halloween events, it's October, so pumpkin painting October 11th. Witches Ball on the 14th. Caffeine and Carburetors on the 23rd. The big cross-country FCAC championship is the 19th, and then Halloween's happenings on the 28th or 29th, depending on rain. So a lot of things are going on like that at Waveney. The doors for Waveney House have been delivered to the storage container, And right now, the biggest thing is we have to wait till we get through some weddings so that they can be installed. It's not a simple, easy process to install the new glass doors. So that will happen late fall. As Ronna mentioned at the pool, we had the pump for the mushroom go down. We actually have 3 separate pumps at the pool. Long term, I'd like to have 6 pumps at the pool so that we always have a backup. There was a lot of sleepless nights. If the main pump went in the pool at the end of July, we would have been shut down for the rest of the year because the pumps weren't available. I don't like sleeping that way, so we're gonna look at that over the winter. As far as parks are concerned, as you guys know, that Todd Declan is the superintendent now, and brought tonight Ryan Restivo, his assistant superintendent. So this has been a very stressful year as far as plant materials are concerned in the parks. So luckily, the highway department has been out watering a lot of our trees up until recently. And we've been having irrigation issues with a lot of our athletic fields, grounds, even town hall lawn here with water restrictions and everything else, but we're making progress. And with that, today, the dog park, the upper section that we talked about seeding in the spring, which in hindsight, I'm sure glad we didn't, because it wouldn't have survived through this summer. But that got seeded today. So, and hopefully we'll keep getting these little bits of rain for that. Batting cage at girls softball that was approved, I think last fall, is completed. The only thing we're gonna redo around it is the grass seed, just because it's been so dry that the seed they put down for the work didn't survive. Right now, parks maintenance guys, they're down to two men. Since Ryan was promoted, his position needs to be filled. We have an internal posting for that. And then one of our guys that's been working for the town for 12 years has accepted another position. He lives in Stratford and has a position with the town of Stratford. So it stops the commute. So I'd recommend people come to the first football game. The new lights are installed at Dunning, ready to go. That was in our capital project. So that's up and running. That's about it. Anybody have any questions?
No. Just a quick question on the playground for Waveney. Do you know where that stands right now? I know it was I think it was approved or.
It's approved. We're trying to get a committee together. We know we have 2 people from the Park and Rec Commission, but there's
Right.
other people. Monica was one of the people that was going to be, Tiger was looking to see who to put on that. So
Okay.
I'm going to ask Monica. And yes, it's one of those things. We'd like to get moving on it because that's just the supply chain issues. We're
Right.
not sure.
Absolutely. Yep, no doubt. Okay. Are there any questions of John or comments? Okay. All right. Just moving on to the chairperson's report. That's me. I just have one item. In our last meeting, we heard a presentation from Mr. Algamore, Gabriel Almagor, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing that. Mr. Algamore is communicated with Tucker Murphy over the summer that he is pleased with his current location in town by the train station to promote his fellowship, and so we'll have no further need of Mead Park. Okay, so with that, and then just my last thing is a big thanks to our great staff, Park and Rec, for working really hard through a very long, hot summer. With just, as the numbers indicated, our numbers are exploding, which is fantastic. But obviously, with anything like that, you have growing pains, and we have to adjust and be very flexible there. So we really appreciate all the hard work. Thank you. So, are there any other questions? Any issues that need to be brought to the floor? Okay. With that, is there a motion to adjourn? Steve, hello, how are you? Okay, you have an adorable baby. And so if there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second. Thanks, everybody. Let's give this holding his baby in there.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I missed I missed that age, the toddler phase, like when they're twos and threes,
That actually.
but when they were like, little,
But we had
3, 4, 5 months old. it's great.
Yeah. When that
God,
hung you like
So we
glue.
would've-
Because we had like an event.
how was your summer?
Great.
Terrific.
Yeah.
The next.
It's over.
Yeah, it's amazing how
2
quickly
weeks
Labor Day
from-
creeps up on you. And so.
Short this meeting.
Yeah. Yesterday.
Well, we had a couple
13.
items that were dropped.
With a person from Monica, she says, yeah.
Right, so
Jennifer
the
Lawrence,
13th.
she doesn't show up, she goes, you know.
Yeah, so I think it'd be the
You know, she's
27th.
after you.
Or whatever. I'll
Oh.
figure that one out.
Yeah.
You don't know like Grace, you don't know like Grace Church, you don't know like Grace Church.
Thanks, Sean. Great job.
I don't, it's a tricky one because they're.
Yeah. How about you?
I literally got that email yesterday. I was having major IT.
Do you have
problems.
kids in school